Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Quality Matters in Course Design. This is part 2 of our series, 4-part series, and today we are going to focus on standards 3 and 4. My name is Rose DiNardo, and I am the Assistant Director of the ELearning Division here at Camden County College. And along with me today is Ginny McGee, the Instructional Designer in eLearning. I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. If you can use the chat panel to let me know that I'm coming through loud and clear. Wonderful, thank you very much. I'm just going to leave this sound check up for another few seconds for those who might not be able to hear. In addition to today's professional development webinar, we do have a lot of other webinars coming up in the near future. As you can see on the screen, in April, we have 5 new webinars, starting with Differentiated Instruction Online with Patrick Chad. Then we have Online Assessment with Ginny McGee. On April 13th, we continue with our part 3 of our Quality Matters in Course Design series. Then our new program technician, Rich Cummings, will talk about using the Canvas course template on April 19th. And then on April 27th, we will finish up our professional development webinars with part 4 of the Quality Matters in Course Design. So here's today's agenda. We're going to talk briefly about the Quality Matters rubric for those who were not in attendance for part 1 of the series. Then we're going to delve into standard 3, which is assessment and measurement. Then standard 4, which is instructional materials. We will take questions throughout the presentation. You can use the chat or the Q&A panel. And I will stop and Ginny will let me know what questions that you have. Then we're going to talk about support and some reminders at the very end. So for those of you who were not able to attend part 1 of our webinar series, Quality Matters has a rubric that is in the 6th edition. It gets revised every 2 to 3 years. It's divided into 8 standards. Last week, we did course overview and introduction, as well as learning objectives and competencies. This week, we're doing assessment and measurement and instructional materials. And in the coming weeks, we will address standards 5 through 8, learning, interaction, and engagement, course technology, learning support, and accessibility. These 8 standards are divided into 42 specific review standards, and each standard is allocated a point value. 3 points means that it's essential to the design of the course and that it should be in your course design, in your online or hybrid course. 2 points means that it's very important. 1 point means that it's important. And in order to get to a certain point value, which we'll talk about in a moment, you can pick a different subset of points 2 and 1. So there are 100 possible points on the Quality Matters rubric, and there's a photograph of it on the right-hand side of your screen, where you can see the general standards, the specific standards under each of those, and the point values. Again, you can find a copy of this in the Faculty Hub. The desired score that you want is 85% out of these 100 points. Now, if you were to add all 23 specific standards that are 3 points, that would get you to 69. Which means that in order to meet Quality Matters standards, you would need 16 more points using a subset of the standards from points valued 1 and 2. And then, of course, if you wanted to go for the full 100, you could go for the last 15 points and add everything into your course if you so desired. All right, this is my funniest slide of the presentation, my duh versus doy. There's a lot of things that we're going to go over on these specific standards that you're going to say, well, duh, I already do that in my course. And then there's going to be other things where you're going to be like, oh, doy, I didn't even think of that. So this is, like I said, this is my funniest slide for the course or for the webinar today. I do apologize. It is a little bit of a dry material, but we will do our best to get through it. So let's talk about standard 3 a little bit. Standard 3 is the assessment and measurement standard, and there's 5 specific review standards associated with standard 3. There's 3 3-point standards, 2 2-point standards, and 0 1-point standards. So here you have a chance to earn a total of 13 quality matter points. Standard 3 is about the students mastering the content of the course, and it's about their progress and letting them know their feedback as they go along and how they are doing so that they know where they stand within the course. Standard 3.1 says the assessments measure the achievement of the stated learning objectives or competencies. This is a 3-point value, and as you recall, 3-point values are essential to the course design. So what this means is that you want the assessments to align with the course and module objectives from standards 2.1 and standards 2.2. So you want to make sure that if you said in standard 2.2 that for a module objective that students will be able to describe the steps in whatever it is, then you have to have an assessment that allows the students to do that description. Standard 3.2, the course grading policy is stated clearly at the beginning of the course, and this is a 3-point value. So for best practice, you could put this in your first day handout, or if you wanted to in your orientation session or your first module, you can have a separate module item just for your grading document. That way it's easily accessible for students to get to so that they don't have to go through the first day handout to look for all the grading information. Standard 3.3, specific and descriptive criteria are provided for the evaluation of learners' work, and their connection to the course grading policy is clearly explained. This is a 3-point value. So the best practice for this is to maybe include a checklist for something that the students have to do, or a rubric, or any kind of evaluation instrument. For example, as an evaluation instrument, I have a grade sheet that I use when I am grading student speeches, and I give them a copy of that so they know what I am going to be looking at in the beginning, and then they get a completed copy at the end after they have submitted their speech. Standard 3.4, the assessments used are sequenced, varied, and suited to the course level. This is a 2-point value. What this means is that you want your assessments to build off of one another. You want them to increase in difficulty as you go along. You don't want to start off with something difficult and then go to something easy. You want to start off with an assessment that is suited at the proper level of the course and increase. And you also want to include multiple ways for the learners to demonstrate their progress. So what this means is that you don't want to use just all multiple choice quizzes or all essays. You want to try and find different ways for the students to demonstrate that they are learning the content of the course. Standard 3.5, our last standard under assessment and measurement, says that the course provides learners with multiple opportunities to track their learning progress with timely feedback. This is valued at 2 points. For best practice, this means that maybe you allow students to submit drafts of essays, or maybe you have self-mastery tests or practice quizzes in your course, or perhaps you do peer reviews and critiques for the students. This would allow them to see how they are doing prior to graded items. I'm going to take a moment and pause. Does anyone have any questions on standard 3? If you do, you can put them in the Q&A section, and Ginny will let me know if anything pops up. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I have Ginny muted by accident. No wonder she's not talking. Hi, Ginny.
Thank you. Hello.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, do we have any questions regarding standard 3, Ginny?
We do not have any questions as of yet.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to proceed with standard 4. And if you have any questions, please add them to the Q&A. All right, so standard 4 is our section on instructional materials. There are 5 specific review standards, just like there were in standard 3. And just like in standard 3, there are 0 1-point standards, but there are 2 3-point standards and 3 2-point standards. So for standard 4, you have the opportunity to earn 12 quality matter points. So what this standard is about is aligning instructional materials with the course and module learning objectives. So all of the standards 2.1, 3.1, 4.1, and so on are all about the alignment of the objectives. And you'll see that as we proceed through future webinars as well. What constitutes an instructional material? Well, that could be pretty much anything. It could be a textbook, slides, lectures, videos, images, diagrams, anything of that nature. So standard 4.1 is a 3-point value, and it says that instructional materials contribute to the achievement of the stated learning objectives. So basically what this is saying is that you want to have relevant materials that are going to work along with those module and course objectives that you stated. You don't want to have a material just because you like it and it really has no relevance to the course. We've actually seen some courses where they're filled with a lot of instructional materials, but the instructional materials don't coincide with those learning objectives. So you want to make sure that your materials are relevant to the course and module objectives. Standard 4.2 is a 3-point value, which means it's essential. And it says that the relationship between the use of instructional materials in the course and completing learning activities, is clearly explained. So what this is for best practices, you want to state the purpose of the learning material. So perhaps if students have to read the textbook, you might want to add, to the quiz that this is for chapters 1 and 2. That's what this quiz covers. You want to clearly explain the connection between the material to a specific learning activity. Standard 4.3 is a 2-point value, which means that it's very important, but not necessary. And what this is that the course models the academic integrity expected by learners by providing both source references and permissions for use of instructional materials. So what this means for best practice is that you want to add your references and your citations for materials. You don't want to use materials from a third party and not cite where they came from. So, and you can use APA, MLA, or Chicago format. Standard 4.4 is a 2-point value, And it says that the instructional materials represent up-to-date theory and practice in the discipline. So you want to use both current materials, but you can also use seminal materials as well. But you want to use as many current materials as possible. What we always suggest, excuse me, what we always suggest is going through your course each semester, maybe tweaking it a little bit, double checking, making sure your links work, making sure that the material is still current, and if not, finding something else to replace it. Standard 4.5 is a 2-point value, and it says that a variety of instructional materials are used in the class. So what this means is that you don't want to limit your materials to one type. So you don't want to use all PowerPoint slides. Just in the, like we said in the assessment, you don't want to use all multiple choice quizzes. You want to use different things as well. So maybe you might use some PowerPoints, but maybe you might also have some videos, hopefully with closed captioning with those, or maybe you have some worksheets or something of that nature. So you just want to make sure that your instructional materials are varied as well as your assessments. Okay, so that was pretty brief. That's because there weren't as many specific standards as there were in standards 1 and 2. So at this time, we're going to take questions regarding today's presentation. While I'm waiting for you to type in your questions, I'm just going to go over some housekeeping items. So what can we do for you in e-learning? If you're interested in using Canvas as a supplemental tool for your face-to-face course, we can help you with that. If you're interested in creating an online or hybrid course for the future, for a future semester, we can help you with that as well. And we also, if you have an existing online or hybrid course and you're interested in enhancing your current course by learning more about the functions in Canvas, we can help you with that as well.
So we did have one question.
Okay.
So the question was just wondering how specific clearly needs to be. And I think that's referring to standard 4.2 that says both the purpose of instructional materials and how the materials are to be used for learning activities are clearly explained. So she's saying, how specific does clearly need to be, meaning it has to link directly to a standard?
So that's a very good question. So clearly just means letting the student know that this particular material or this particular assessment does link to a module or course objective. So you might say something like upon completing this activity, a student will be able to, and then that way they know that it links with a certain objective. Does that make sense?
I think that was a good explanation.
Okay. All right. Do we have any more questions?
So far, we don't.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about what type of support is available to you while we're waiting for more questions to come in. So you have support via Canvas. Their support is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year. They have Canvas guides that are available under the help icon. There is a support hotline, which the number is on the screen, and you can also do live chats with them, which is what we usually do when we need their assistance. E-learning is also available to help you, and I forgot once again to change the email address. That should say elearning@camdencc.edu. However, if you do send something to distancelearning@camdencc.edu, it will get to us as well. We are here Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. Of course, we always have the bad habit of checking our email after hours, so you might occasionally hear from us after normal business hours. And here's the e-learning division. We have Dr. Patrick Chad, our associate dean. Then there is me, the assistant director. We have Ginny McGee, our instructional designer, and we have Rich Cummings, our program technician. We are all available and willing to help you. If you have questions specific to quality matters and you want to talk to one of your peers, we do have what we call faculty ambassadors. They have all gone through the quality matters training through the quality matters, and you can contact one of them directly if you have any questions as well. So that would be Peter DiLorenzo, Anthony Iannuzzi, Renee Samara, Anita Wright, and Lisa Zapetti.
So we have one other question so far. Where are the recordings and PowerPoint slides available for viewing in the future?
Everything will be in the faculty hub. And Jenny, can you tell them specifically where you put those?
Yes, so there's a tab in the Canvas Faculty Hub that says recorded webinars. And so that is where the recorded webinars will be. And then there's also a section in the modules for quality matters, and that's where you can find the rubric. And we could put the PowerPoint slides in there too, if that's something that you would like to do.
We can do that as well. Okay, so the final item that I have for you today is to welcome you to join me on Wednesday, April 13th for Quality Matters and Course Design Part 3, where we will go over Standard 5, Learning Activities and Learner Interaction, and Standard 6, Course Technology. Do we have any other questions before we conclude today?
So far, we don't have any others that have been submitted.
Okay. So I want to take the opportunity to thank you for joining us this afternoon. I hope that you have enjoyed our series so far and will continue to join us for parts 3 and 4. And don't forget about those other upcoming professional development webinars that we have. If you don't have any further questions, I'm going to go ahead and conclude today's presentation. Again, thank you very much for joining us.